and welcome to another episode of Passion, People, and Preposterous Peeves. I am still your host, Ike, and before I get too excited or make any more weird sounds, I'd like to just take a moment and say thanks for being here and giving this pod a listen. It means a lot to me that you chose to use your precious time and give me and my guests your ears. Now, if after all this greatness, you still have the wherewithal, you're not blown away to completion, that sounded weird, it'd be really cool if you shared this with someone who you think would like it. Or just subscribe yourself if you're relevant. That'd mean a lot. Or if you have any questions, qualms, or quandaries, you can always hit me up at twitter.com/likeikes or at likeikes as the cool kids are saying it. Hello, fellow youths. Or you can always just snail mail email me at passionandpeevespodcast@gmail.com. So if I sound a little out of it right now, it's because I'm recording this in the morning because I'm a dingus. And my weekend exploded in a magical stealth fashion, and I'm very stressed out. I am playtesting with friends and teammates for Magic the Gathering Worlds. I don't remember what 30 or I don't fucking know. But that's coming up here in a week and like 4 days. So I'm freaking the fuck out. Love Magic, hate their scheduling. We were effectively given 15 days from product to digital release to when the tournament deck due dates are, when we have to kind of turn in our final draft. It's a fucking rough turnaround, so I'm freaking out. A lot of pressure. If you all have any tips on how to relieve pressure, chill out, not have panic attacks, hit me up at likeikes on Twitter or passionpeevespodcast@gmail.com. That would be appreciated. Though, shout out to Derek Davis, my teammate and homie. He is being awesome. Playing testing with him is always a pleasure and a learning experience. Mostly a pleasure. But also, learn things from every now and then. Other than would play against other people, I guess is what I mean to say. He's a level up. Definitely recommend, and actually try to get him on this podcast. He's a fun fella. Honestly, other than that, I haven't got a whole too much going on. Still continuing to work out a smidgen every morning. I believe I mentioned that a week or so ago. I've been doing it for a hot minute now. And it's really fun. I hate it, but it's really fun. It's the right amount of time. I can see the goalposts when I start, which I think is what I need at least to start. So, big fan. Yeah. Just wigging out. My pit, my stomach is a pit right now. I just it's weird. I love playing Magic. I hate stress. This is this weird coalition of. I had this thought recently, why don't I not play these big tournaments? Why do I put myself under the stress? Because it is relatively stressful to play these regional championships and these Pro Tour level events that I esteem so much to do. But at the same time, I really enjoy playing locally with friends and stuff like that. It doesn't mean as much winning. I don't mean to sound like trite douchey or anything like that, but winning at a local level for me at this point is nice, but it's, depending upon opponent, meeting expectation, going slightly above, but it's nothing I usually feel like I'm supposed to. Maybe that's a bad mindset to be in, but mathematically I am not wrong. So it's really hard for me to be it's awesome winning regardless of level, but it definitely is much less sweet when you expect it, and kind of should, just historically, where at regional championships and especially pro tour level events, each win is its own parade. It feels so good. Even the ones that you get away with murder, your opponent was never in it. They for those of you that know, mulliganed and basically never took a game action. They were just a spectator. That is still that. It feels sweet. It's a different kind of sweet. You feel a little bit sad that your opponent never had a chance and that you kind of got given it. But at that level, being given a win is, that's a different level gift. And so I guess I'm just chasing a high. I don't know. But competitively speaking, while it is, I need to figure out how to kind of blend this better so I'm not having like a, panic attack for the week prior. Because once I get in it, sans a couple, like, for instance, like Minneapolis, there was 2 matches, I think, that were really rough on me on my psyche. Not psychically. On my psyche. And it was because of just, like, there was a couple other things going around, the circumstance, and it just, like, hit different. But by and large, even the matches I lost, and I lost plenty, I lost 8 matches. 4 or 5 of those, maybe even 6. 5 of those losses were, like, not ideal, but I would say 4 of those did not bother me at all. 2 of those kind of bothered me some, and 2 bothered me a lot. But I mean, like, that, if you're playing 16 rounds, 12 to 14 of them were very good, positive experiences, winning and losing, and 2 to 4 of those were, ugh. And some of that can be worked on, and some of that's just the way it is. I think that breakdown is fine. And I don't know, I just... Sorry to be rambling and kind of like having a therapy moment here, but like it is... I guess maybe I just need to say it for myself. Anyway, this has been my TED Talk on how to deal with pressure and high level TCG. I digress. This week, though, there is a magical component to it, though we are not talking about magic. I'll have a break for that this week, thankfully. And I am no shade to the game that I love, but I am trying to diversify it. But had some homies that I wanted to come on. They wanted to come on. It worked out. So this week, it is a magical friend of mine talking about something differently magical? I don't know. Please enjoy my interview with the lovely, lavish Richard Liu. All right, folks. Today with me, I have the Grand Prix Sacramento champion of 2017, survivor of a half marathon, and winner of the 2009 Shakespeare Pub 2-pound fish and chips eat out. It's Richard Liu.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, still digesting that fish from previous day, so.
It's a good thing Jesus didn't have you at the feeding of the 5,000. He would have never made it around.
No, I would have taken it all, so. Yeah.
Well, perhaps it's not going to be eating fish, but what decision in your life are you the most proud of making?
The proudest singular decision I've ever, I guess it's to do this podcast, right? No, but seriously, I remember actually going back to winning GP Sacramento. I had never. Oh, by the way, as an aside, how much assumption can I make that people know about Magic? Like,
They know about Magic,
Mhm.
but I wouldn't say most people that listen to this are Magic players.
Oh, okay.
They know of it as it is a game that people play in tournaments.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
about where it ends.
Okay. So, so besides being on this podcast, my best decision ever was playing in GP Sacramento, which I was originally not going to do because I played a tournament that was the same format the night before, and I literally played one round and dropped afterwards because I was so frustrated. But
it was a terrible format. I remember that format very unfondly.
Yes, I mean, as with all core set limited formats, it's generally pretty bad.
My one memory of that tournament, other than you winning, was myself and Joe Landweber were sitting off to the side playing something else, and now Magic the Gathering GOAT Nathan Stoyer walks up and goes, "Hey, do you guys want to play an 8-man draft?" And both of us looked at him immediately and in sync went, "Fuck no!" like cadence, everything. It was perfect. It was like we practiced it. And he just kind of looked at us and goes, "Okay," and just left.
That's great.
It was fantastic.
But you had the chance to play with the future world champions.
We did, but instead we had to spend a week playtesting with them in Minneapolis.
Oh well, that's definitely, you know.
You take your lumps where you get them.
Yeah, exactly.
Had we'd known that in the past, perhaps I could have had better advice with listening to him and playing with him more. However, Did you, or do you remember what the best or most memorable piece of advice you've received over your many years has been?
Yeah, actually, so for me, a big arc of my life is how I approach dating and how I generally interact with, people that I'm interested in. And I think the and this is getting a little serious, but I think one thing that a lot of men go through is they reach, and I know this because I've talked to a lot of people who go through this also, and I look back and I'm like, I've been there, but it's like you start off your life because our society kind of assigns very little value towards men outside of like their accomplishments or whatever, right? Or their
Mm-hmm.
economic value. And so you start off as a very like what society would consider as a very worthless person, which is not, by the way, very bad in my opinion, but that's just how life works. And so
Fair.
people are very sad because like, they have no success in relationships. Their life isn't going anywhere, particularly because, for whatever reason, like you can call it the rotting corpse of neoliberalism or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, it creates, to put it very bluntly, like a lot of incels, and I've been there too. Not
Mm-hmm.
like to the same degree that people would generally associate with inceldom, but definitely on that spectrum, right? And I think the best piece of advice that I have ever gotten, and the best piece of advice that no one will ever listen to, me included, is to just be confident. Like,
Hmm.
confidence is incredibly important, And obviously there's other factors too, but like that's like but it's not just how you engage with other people, it's how you engage with yourself, right? Being happy when self-satisfied, that's like incredibly important. And it took me years and years and years and years and years to realize that. But yeah. Now, obviously, that's not the only factor, but you're so much happier with yourself when you're confident. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I guess that makes sense, right? Because you're not, you take away that element of doubt, or at least reduce it considerably. You take away that when you're confident in yourself, you also believe in yourself and you find value in yourself,
Yeah.
right? So you
Exactly.
don't have all these, small weights that add up to like, just a chest of drawers that you're just lugging around unknowingly.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think like people always kind of internalize it as being confident when interacting with other people, but I think like the more important part is how do you interact with yourself, right? What your
Mm,
inner monologue is
yeah.
like. Yeah.
Well, on the opposite end of this, or maybe a similar end,
Mhm.
what's the silliest non-religious thing you believed as a child that you look back on now and giggle?
Okay. So this is absolutely absurd, right? But have you ever heard of the extremely famous Canadian TV show Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Okay, so the high concept of this is like it's a bunch of people going into the woods to tell scary stories to each other, and each episode would comprise of a story and like some higher concept lesson, but it's like very episodic in nature. So
Hmm.
there's this one episode where the the monster of the story or the scary component of the story is unleashed by a person staring into a candle flame, and from then on, for like, I don't know, the next like 5 years, I was afraid to stare into open fires for fear of like, yeah, I'm not even shitting you. I was like 6 when I watched this, by the way. So it was like this was like those Canadians traumatized me. Okay.
They caught me to stop looking at fire. The
Yeah.
bastards.
Oh, that show was like it created my fear of clowns. Like,
I
going,
mean, that sounds like they saved you on that one.
well, yeah, I mean, clowns are still terrifying. It's not. That's a well-established fact, but yeah, that has been the source of a lot of childhood trauma and joy too. To be fair, like I have a lot of fond memories watching that show right after Ren and Stimpy.
Oh, Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah, that was
Bangers.
not a show made for kids, by the way.
No. It was a show that was made, and the only place that had the money was a child's TV show, and then
Yeah,
they just like
exactly.
lied through their teeth to get it made for sure.
Yeah, I was like going back and watching. I'm like, who the fuck thought this would be
Yeah, Ren and
appropriate?
Stimpy. Uh, what's the one where it's like it's about a dog and an old couple.
Oh, Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Yeah, that is
No way.
horrifying.
Why is that on a kids' cartoon
Yeah,
channel? What
like,
the fuck?
I was a little older when Courage the Cowardly Dog came out, so like it never like terrified me the same degree as these other shows. But like even as an older person, I still find that show creepy as fuck. So yeah, cartoons are
now
just built
kids,
different.
you can't watch FX or Fox or anything like that. Sit down and watch Cartoon Network. Sit down and watch Adult Swim.
Things were just built different back then. It was
really
definitely a different vibe.
What would you say is your biggest everyday temptation?
Food. Like
which particular one?
You know what? So another little bit about my life is like I used to be like a lot bigger person, and I lost over the course of like 6 months, I lost like 80 pounds. It was a gigantic transformation. That's also what kind of like started me running, like the half marathon that you talked about in the introduction. But so I've always had this like tremendous body dysmorphia, and a gigantic fear I have is gaining back the weight that I ended up losing. And so, sugar is my Achilles heel. I actually didn't used to like sugar. It was very interesting, but after I lost weight, I fucking love sugar now. It's delicious. Have you ever had like a drumstick and then had another drumstick after it? Like we're
talking about the ice cream.
Yeah, we're talking about the ice cream. Like, and then but like you don't eat the whole thing. You save the tip of the drumstick for when you finish the second one, and then you can enjoy both of them at the same time. that's I would say like on the scale of things that bring me pleasure, I think that's like almost as high, possibly surpassing sex. So, but you can't do that.
I love the honesty. I appreciate that. That's great. Oh my god. I love it that you like not one but 2 drumsticks. But wait, there's more. Save the tips.
Yeah, save the last part. Just the tip.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful.
Hey, it's so good that like kind of fake chocolate in the extremely like industrialized like cone. I don't know what it is. Like, by the way, I love these super like mass-produced carbohydrate products. Like,
they're the best.
Yeah, my favorite cookie is this dog-shaped cookie that they only sell in Starbucks Targets, and like I love it.
Specific.
It's because there's this faint taste of margarine. Like, which brings me back to my childhood. Like, it's disgusting by all rights, right?
Yeah,
but every time I go to Target that has a Starbucks, I will buy one because, like, I don't know, it's the taste of capitalism, right? Like, it's freedom. This is why we won the war in 1776, right?
Yeah, this is what George Washington was fighting for.
Exactly. Oh my God! Like, you can see an eagle soar through the sky as you shed a single tear, like streaming down your cheek as you bite into that delicious margarine tasting cookie.
Oh. Other than dreaming about those margarine cookies or having 2 drumsticks, what was your last or most memorable dream that you can recall?
Most memorable dream I can recall. Honestly, I'm not very good at remembering dreams. And I think the ones that do end up sticking with me for any period of time are just the really traumatizing ones, which is like which like your brain trying to prepare you for something.
Yeah.
But I think the one really common one that I have very frequently. Well, there's 2 really common ones that I have very frequently. I can't say that they're like I think they're only memorable because it happens so much, but it's the one where you lose all your teeth. That's like a big one. And I have that one a lot. And the other one is you're like driving down the street in your car and the brakes just don't work. So I don't know, but in terms of like specific dreams, I can't really remember anything off the top of my head.
I mean, those last 2 nuggets are well worth it, so thanks.
It's like the teeth one in particular is like feels very real on a visceral level, Like,
yeah.
you can like I can actually feel like there's no teeth left in my mouth or something. So that one's also terrifying on a Curse the Cowardly Dog level.
Well, to take it away from terrifying to more terrific, if you were ever to take part in a WWF styled event, what would you want your walkout song to be?
Misery Business, because there's a build up in the beginning, and then like as soon as the lyrics drop, boom, that's when you fucking get out. That's when you like enter the arena, and it's just perfect. There's a little bit of like 2000s problematic content in there, but hey, it's still a classic. It's a great song.
I mean, you're lubed up wrestling on camera, underpaid with no health care. Like, what's a
Yeah,
that feels like the place for 90s problematic lyrics to be showcased.
This is actually 2000s, like mid 2000s.
Oh, in 2000.
Yeah. This is Paramore's my favorite Paramore song. I'm a huge fan of Paramore.
Bangers all the way down.
Yeah.
What would you say is the proudest accomplishment that you have that the fewest people know of?
Oh, the proudest accomplishment that the fewest people know of. So this is by no means my proudest accomplishment, because like I think
For sure.
a lot of my proudest accomplishments a lot of people know about, right? But
Yeah.
the easily the proudest accomplishment that the fewest people know of is when I was playing World of Warcraft a lot, I always was chasing. So there's this thing called like DPS parses, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like more colloquially they'll call it parsing, which is just what essentially it is you take your combat log, you record it into a text file, and then you upload it to a website. Generally, like back then it was World of Logs. Now there's also World of, I can't remember anymore. I honestly can't remember because it's been a while. But and they would have rankings like on the highest damage parses, right? And it was in the 4th expansion, Warlords of Draenor, in like some Blackrock Foundry kind of thing. I can't remember exactly. It was a train, or it was a boss with a bunch of animals, and like I was in a pub for this boss, like a public group, where you just simply do not do well in public groups because everybody like is fucking shit and they're messing up, which always affects your damage. Because in terms like the best damage parses generally go to like the most successful raids, right? Because killing the bosses quickly awards you, like, generally allows you to do more damage. But in this public group for this boss, because they failed so badly, and it's like this boss with a lot of animals and like different adds to it, I got to AoE the entire time because half the raid was dead. And so somehow I got a rank 1 in the world parse in a public group for this boss. I don't know how long it lasted.
So
I don't
you did
remember.
an insanely hard thing under an absurdly unlikely circumstance.
It's generally absurdly unlikely, but in this particular case, it was their failure was my benefit. So yeah, that's in terms of things that people don't know about. I don't even know if anyone knows about that besides myself.
That's awesome.
And like the 2 or 3 friends I've talked about it with.
What would you say is the favorite meal to make just for yourself, assuming cost and time are not relevant factors?
So one of my favorite ingredients in the world is uni, and I really like risotto also. I think it's like very therapeutic to make. So I'll make this like, I've only done this once because it just takes a shit ton of time. But I'll make a compound butter with uni, and then use that to make a risotto, and then finish it with a little more uni. And that is like, and if you have it, like a little bit of caviar also. But it's just absolutely delicious. It's
So
probably
an
the best.
uni risotto.
Yeah, it's my favorite thing I've ever made. Like risotto, it's a very perfect vessel for the for sea urchin gonads. But yeah, absolutely delicious. And I love cooking too. It's very therapeutic. But I unfortunately, again, going back to the whole weight loss thing, I cannot cook because everything I cook is horrendously unhealthy. It's like half a stick of butter for like a serving of something. So yeah.
Well, in moments such as that, perhaps if you were around your grandma, what would be your favorite G-rated cursed word to utter in times of such realization?
I guess I don't think I utter G-rated curses. I guess I could say darn it sometimes. Gosh darn it is something, but I feel like G-rated curses are something only uttered in irony, right? Like unless you're like
irony or fear of an elder aged person's scorn, but yeah.
Well, see, here's the thing. Both my grandparents don't really know English.
So you've got carte blanche to just throw obscenities around.
If I'm like, fuck, then what are they gonna? I don't even think either of them understand what that means. So, and my Chinese is sketchy. My Chinese is pretty good, but like, I don't really swear in Chinese because I only learned Chinese from my parents, And
Yeah.
parents aren't going to teach you swear words, right? Or at least my parents didn't.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I don't actually think I could say anything that's bad around them. I'd say fuck a lot around my parents, and like I feel like in Chinese culture there's like a very different engagement with swearing than in American culture, and like they're like, oh my god, like you said fuck, that's like a really big deal, and I'm like, I don't think anybody really cares that much. But yeah, my grandparents would not even if I said fuck around my grandparents, they would not even know. So
Well, lucky you.
yeah.
Do you have any other interesting myths to dispel? Maybe not just about your family and how fortunate you are about being able to curse, but out in the world, is there anything that you find yourself being like, actually pushing up your glasses a little and getting your nerd on?
There's like a million things I could talk about. I mean, without like, I could spend like a whole show talking about just random bullshit, but honestly, nothing I can really think about off the top of my head that I really want to dispel. I mean, the shuffler is not cheating you on Magic Online. That's a big one. I enjoy talking about a lot of political things, and I think there's a lot of okay. I'll go with a very easy one, and I think this one's like kind of what a lot of people find annoying, or a lot of people don't really understand. But like, and this is kind of serious, by the way. But I'm very interested in these kinds of topics. But like in politics, right?
Mhm.
People generally, very far left-leaning people generally associate markets with capitalism, right? As an example, obviously the right does this for other ways, like um, redistributive policies, as with communism or whatever, right? To make an example for the other side, but like the way I view these things isn't that like I don't think there's anything intrinsic about either of these things that associate them with one side or another. I think that markets are a tool. I think redistributive social policies are a tool. I think that it is very weird to essentialize a tool as being good or evil, right? It's
Hmm.
how you utilize them. You
Yeah.
could make the argument that markets tend to trend towards bad things, and that is certainly, I mean, as it turns out, that's true. Or depending on who you ask, that's true,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
If you ask me, that's true, but you might, if you ask a Republican, maybe not. But yeah, but it's still at the end of the day, like Marx, as an example, wasn't hugely against markets. He finds that markets are successful in some places and very unsuccessful in other places. It's just about, using your tools for good rather than blaming the tools themselves. And that's a big myth that I enjoy dispelling.
That's cool. I hadn't thought about that. Didn't know about that either. Well, on the complete opposite end of any relative spectrum to that question, what's your favorite non-musical sound?
I can give you my least favorite non-musical sound.
I'll take it.
Okay. My girlfriend has an alarm that goes off at like 6:30 in the morning every day, and that alarm literally gives me PTSD. Like I do not wake up that early ever. And so like when I started dating her, she would always wake up that early. In fact, she would have that alarm go off even when she wasn't waking up that early. And then she would just go snooze, 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 snooze. And so I have to listen to this like her whatever her alarm, and it's a different sound from my alarm, by the way. She plays a different like tone, and that sound I cannot listen to it without like getting goosebumps like running up and down my arm anymore. So yeah,
Darn you, girlfriend alarm clock sound.
exactly. Like I'm traumatized. I'm seriously traumatized by that.
Well, to take you out of that into hopefully a more exciting and happying question, what's your favorite book, comic book, cartoon that you think would either be the best or worst choice for a big screen adaptation?
Well, my favorite cartoon of all time did get an adaptation. Not for the big screen, I guess, but as a Netflix series. My favorite comic slash anime slash whatever is Cowboy Bebop, and I think that's a pretty
Oof.
common one. It's an
Bit
amazing
of an
show.
L there.
Yeah, it's an amazing show. Honestly, one of the most beautiful shows of all time. Besides a couple of frames for each episode, still animation still holds up very well.
Yeah.
The best English voice cast ever. The Shinichiro Watanabe, the original director, was like, the English voice cast is better than the Japanese voice cast. So, one can only give so much praise to it. But unfortunately, when Netflix chose to pick it up for an adaptation, it was no, I don't know how to put it.
Heinous.
Less than ideal. Yeah, heinous. You could say heinous. Definitely heinous.
They
would be a good
murdered
way.
my boy.
Yeah, it's like one of those like grotesque like abominations, which is like, just kill me kind of thing. It was.
I'll give it to them. They didn't do what a lot of Japanese live action adaptations do, where they try to do it like frame for frame, and it looks freaky.
Oh yeah,
like where it's just like the uncanny valley meets like high production value. Like they didn't do that, but they still did massacre my boy.
That's the thing. Like I think that's like another big thing is like a lot of anime does not translate well into live action, like just at all, because there's certain things in animation where you can suspend disbelief, right? An amazing example of this is One Piece, which is the one live action One Piece is coming out in 2 days actually. I'm
scared for all fans of that show.
I mean, so actually, by the way, I heard that it's good based on initial reactions, but I watched the trailer and it looks horrible to me. Not for any particular reason, because the world looks gorgeous. The set pieces look gorgeous. But the problem I have with it is when you have a person in real life calling out a move, right?
Yeah, it looks weird.
It's just so weird. And like when you have that, like, and One Piece is famous for its paneling, the emotiveness of its characters, right? The reaction shots, how everything is structured. Like Oda is a master of these things, but like that stuff only works in manga form. It doesn't even work as well in anime, by the way. But like when you translate that into a real person doing it, that just looks ridiculous, right?
Well, the thing that also looks ridiculous to me, and they are, brief aside into this category, I would highly recommend watching, for those of you that haven't, just going to YouTube and typing in Netflix One Piece and watching the trailer so you know what the hell we're talking about. One of the issues that I had with this that kind of like made me scared for the audience, and it was just like, oh, look, another one, is that the sets kind of look blank. Like they look like they copied them from the anime, where anime is trying to save budget by not coloring each floorboard, by not, giving effectively an adjective to each piece of wood in the room, because they got shit to do. They got anime to put out every week. And so they're looking at cutting costs because people aren't paying attention to that, because wild, zany things are happening. But when you copy that into a live action thing, like a lot of those sets look like somewhere between a movie set and a stage play, where it's like they don't have money, they don't have depth. There's like items that should be there to flush it out, fill it out. It's just like, why is everything sparse? There's like every single set I saw was sparse. And then there's the insanity that is some of the characters. Like, I'm not even talking about calling out the moves and like the gummy arm superpower that is Luffy, but like they showcased one of the crazy clown guys, which looks insane. It looks like its second cousin. But it's supposed to be like, it's just like, but it's supposed to play as funny or kind of cool. Like, he's not, if I remember correctly, he's not particularly a bad guy.
No.
But they made it look like if you show a still, like a 3-second shot of that character on screen, it looks like it's for a horror movie.
Yeah.
And
that's
so,
like Buggy, right?
I think that's right.
I'm not a huge fan of One Piece. I've only read like the first 500 chapters. So like, not even like halfway.
I'm not a big fan. I've only read.
Well, no, that's not even half of One Piece.
I know it's not, but it's such a. Only in manga could you say I'm not a fan. I've only read 500 chapters. Like that's anything else. You're like,
there's only 3 constants in this world, right? Death, taxes, and One Piece. So. But that'll be going on long after I'm gone. So.
Oh yeah, long after we're on the ground.
Yeah. But no, like I kind of understand what's going on, but I don't know. Even if I have like my reservations, I don't know what a mega fan's gonna think about it. Maybe they'll like it though.
I hope for their sake they do.
Yeah.
While we're talking about stories, by the way, given the opportunity, what's your favorite story to tell of your own?
Well, of my own. Okay, so it's not the Bradley Elvish Mystic story. Unfortunately, you heard that story before.
Yeah. This is the Elvish Mystic that that he like signed, and like I think you have it. It's like or like bought it. Go ahead. No, you're involved enough in that story. If you want to tell that story, I'm here for it.
Okay. So this was an SCG Open in Oakland.
Yeah.
A standard Open, and Bradley was playing against Ivan Jen, and this was a win and in for both of them in the top 8. And what ended up happening was Bradley has like Omega Lethal on board. Like he can kill Ivan in 50 different ways, right? And he has 1 mana available. Ivan Jen has no creatures on board and is basically dead to anything. Or is not, he's just dead. He's not dead to anything. He is just dead.
Yeah.
And then Bradley chooses, instead of, just holding up his Murderous Cut, he chooses to tap out for an Elvish Mystic, which then Ivan Jen top decks the exact card he needs to go infinite and kill him the next turn, which would have all been prevented with a single Murderous Cut. So I love that story. I tend to embellish it a bit more when I tell it in real life, especially when Bradley's around. But it's like this gigantic meme with him now. Everybody gets him to sign Elvish Mystics.
Does he actually go for it?
Yeah, he signs it. I have a signed Elvish Mystic by Bradley.
Well, I thought I remembered hearing that the signed one you had, like, he wanted it back, and that there were offers of like hundreds of dollars for its purchase.
Very high cash sums have been floated around. I mean, this is like this, but this like is a 1 of 1. It's basically like the
was it? It was the Elvish Mystic.
It was not the Elvish Mystic. It was a random Elvish Mystic that I grabbed out of a bulk bin at the time.
Damn it!
But if Post Malone were to offer me like $1 million for it, I would let go of it. But anything less, just.
You hear that, Post?
Yeah, exactly.
Richard Liu has got the card for you.
Oh yeah, I have a lot of Bradley signed cards, by the way. I have the Murderous Cut, which that one also a random bulk bin Murderous Cut, but that one I also have signed by Bradley, and he also has a "I suck" written on it. Got a lot of play out of that one, but yeah. I love these anecdotes about my friends, though.
They're the best.
Yeah,
it's the reason we gather. It's the reason we hang out with everybody. It's great.
Absolutely. Yeah, I actually have another one recently. But this one is for like much lower. Oh, by the way, both Bradley and Ivan ended up top 8ing because they had one more round after that, and they had 2 1-ins each. But anyway, recently I played in a random store event, and my friend, he's on the second to last round, or the second to last turn for him in turns. He has like 1 more turn after this, but he's playing control deck, so he has no way of actually winning the game unless he deploys the threat on that turn, because none of his creatures have haste, and he has no direct damage or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
And his opponent's at like some medium life total, like 6 or something. And then so he just passes, expecting to draw, and his opponent liquid metal coatings his leyline binding, and then pluses it on it, targeting a card, thinking it'll just kill it like a land, but it actually just gives him a 6/6 creature, and he kills him the next turn with the leyline binding. So yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah. Sometimes you get those freebies.
Who doesn't love a good freebie?
Yeah.
So, do you have a favorite industry secret or a term that's only used in your line of work?
I don't think there. So I'm a software engineer, professionally. I don't know if there's anything that's only used in my line of work besides like just the various jargon for whatever programming language that we're using. I think like people tend to, everything we say just tends to make it into the common vernacular in some way or another, like synergy or cloud or AI or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I don't really think so. Off the top of my head, not really. And if there is, I certainly don't use it because.
Are you against using like Any kind of hyper specific jargon or
Oh,
contractions in
oh
work?
no, I love it. I love when people don't understand what I'm saying, but I understand what I'm saying. It makes me feel so smart. But unfortunately, but the tragic part about this is I am not very smart, so I I don't know these things. I'm sure other people do, much more intelligent individuals than I.
All right, second to last question. Fuck, marry, kill, fork, knife, and spoon.
Um, okay, so question about that.
Yes.
In this hypothetical,
Uh huh.
who is the pitcher and who is the am I the pitcher or am I the catcher?
It's not literally fuck, marry, kill. It's which one?
For the fuck part.
No, no, no. But like, it's more metaphorical.
Oh,
So
oh no,
like,
I know, but metaphorically, am I the pitcher or am I the catcher?
whichever you prefer.
Okay, well, if I definitely fuck knife then, because it's ribbed for my pleasure. But marry fork because fork is the one utensil you will ever need to use in your entire life. I can drink soup with a fork. Uh, and then spoons
Yeah,
are useless.
you got to it before I could.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
kill spoons because they're useless. Literally useless.
Kill spoons.
I
'Cause they're
guess like
useless.
eating rice is like the only reason I would ever use a spoon.
That's so wild. What?
No, like, cause like if you're eating rice on a plate, it's hard to like pick it all up unless you have like a spoon. Cause like a fork, the grains actually fall between the cracks. And unlike soup, which you can drink with a fork because you can lift the bowl up and just drink the soup,
Okay.
you can't do that with
Ah.
rice because it's not gonna like fall into your mouth because it's like sticky with sauce or whatever.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That's a fair point. I didn't thought of it like that. All right, to close out this here main segment, if you could have listeners of this podcast hear one song of your choosing, which would it be?
Famous Last Words by My Chemical Romance. Easily my favorite song of all time. Got me through a lot of hard times. It's amazing. It talks about how, you know, the high concept of the song is like grief over losing a loved one, right? But it also but like expanding on that, it talks about how, you need to be your own person. You need to you you know, or at least this is what I got out of it, because as with all art, it's not what people put into it, it's what
Yeah.
the listener gets out of it. But like, you need to be your own person. You can't have other people be like a defining component of your identity, like, and it like kind of talks about like the trauma of loss, and all that other stuff. It's a wonderful song. MCR is one of my two favorite bands of all time, the other being Paramore, and it's not it's definitely a slept on song, although it is like one of their more famous songs, but it's not in like their top the top ones that they always play at every emo night or whatever. So yeah. Love that. Love it, love it. Famous Last Words on the second greatest album of all time, The Black Parade. So, right behind American Idiot.
And with that, we're going to throw it to our first break. Feel free to stick around and enjoy this totally real commercial, or take a minute to enjoy Famous Last Words by My Chemical Romance. Or if you really wanted to hear a song from a previous episode, please just check out the playlist on Spotify, Passionate People and Preposterous Beef Podcast, Song Wrecked. Long title, I know. Don't worry, there's a link in the description. Either way, see you in a jiffy. Having trouble staying awake?
Oh, yeah.
Wish you'd followed your dream so you had the give a crap necessary to meet your deadlines?
Oh, definitely.
Are you likely to be fired the second another warm body walks through that door and asks your boss for an application?
Probably.
Would you prefer to keep this shit sack of a job instead of explaining to Susan that you've been fired?
I mean, I guess.
Well then, let me introduce you to caffeine. Caffeine is a highly addictive substance that'll keep you jittery and energized to do any fucking stupid task for hours.
That sounds like drugs.
It is.
Aren't drugs illegal?
Not this one. So next time you feel like sitting on the sidewalk instead of at your desk, reach for a caffeine.
Wait, you didn't tell me where I can buy it.
'Cause it's mother-loving everywhere, you blind Neanderthal. Welcome back, everybody. So, Richard, what's the passion that you've brought with you today?
So, I don't know if I would call it a passion or a problem, but I love MMOs or RPGs. if whatever you choose to. I mean,
All
that's
right. Well, now that we've thrown around two acronyms for the old knitting grandma at home, what is an MMORPG?
an MMORPG is a massively multiplayer online for the MMO part. RPG is role-playing game. So the origins of role-playing games go all the way back to the days of yore, when I guess D&D was like the first one in the mainstream. I don't know if it's the first RPG, by the way, but it was the first one in the mainstream, and that was like, the original soul of the RPG was like inhabiting a character and interacting with the world around you as that character. And so
Think acting with no lines.
yeah,
Where you kind of create your own lines when your opportunity is given.
exactly. And somewhere down that line, that spirit was lost, and RPG just means getting experience and leveling up now, which is great, by the way. I love that too. I love both forms of it, and MMOs, it's you exist in a world online, and you can see many people at the same time, and you can form gigantic parties of people and have all the bells and whistles of a normal RPG, but you just play with a lot of people. So, and I've been playing more specifically WoW for a huge portion of my life. It's like
WoW is World of Warcraft.
Yep.
There was also before that there was RuneScape. Before that there was
EverQuest.
EverQuest. There was EverQuest.
Which I never played EverQuest, by the way. Like, I skipped that.
I love how proudly you say that. You're like,
I know.
I didn't sink that low. All right?
Exactly.
I had a problem, but I wasn't.
Have standards.
Yeah.
I say as I'm playing WoW.
It's like a meth head talking to a crack addict, like, whoa, freak.
Yeah,
like,
it's
take that shit over there.
Well, it's like even questionable whether the thing I'm doing is somehow better. Because, by the way, WoW was not even my first MMO. My first MMO was Ragnarok Online. So if we want to talk about standards, I might have the literal worst standards ever.
Well, speaking of your first one ever, when did you first get into playing these MMORPGs?
It was the sophomore. It was either sophomore or freshman year of high school. My friend had been playing a lot of Ragnarok Online, and I tried it out one day, having made the jump from Diablo 1 and 2, which, those weren't MMOs, but those were RPGs that you could play with other people. And so I kind of yearned for that experience. And like Ragnarok Online was like very similar to that. It had the same overhead view. You click to move, you cast abilities like dynamically as opposed to like turn-based, but like, yeah, so that gave a very Diablo-esque feel, but it also like opened the window for like this community of very interesting people that I would then befriend and hang out with for a decent portion of my life. And I've been hooked ever since, basically.
So you do Ragnarok Online, and then you do what a lot of people consider is the Mac Daddy of MMORPGs in World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
When did you first play that? So sophomore year you get into Ragnarok. How long does it take you to get to WoW?
Exactly 4 years. I know the exact time I started playing WoW. Second year of college, sophomore year of college is when I started playing WoW. First year, I was still playing Ragnarok, but all my roommates were playing WoW, and they tried to get me into WoW, and I was like, nah, I have like a very addictive personality. This is not a good idea. Like, I'm just gonna play Ragnarok and see where it goes from there. But I ended up caving in eventually and buying WoW, and that was possibly the worst or best decision of my life. If you have ever seen somebody, have you ever seen a person play 20 hours of a game in a day? Like, that was me for a while.
I mean, I've done it, but not with a game that is like that intense. I've like drunk and hung out and played 20 hours of poker in a day, but no, I have not played 20 hours. How frequently did you find yourself playing 20 hours?
So, when Burning Crusade, the first expansion for WoW, came out, I literally spent 20 hours playing a day, and honestly, possibly more than 20 hours from the day it released until 2 weeks after the release date. So
every single day you were playing 20 hours?
Yes, every single day I was playing 20 hours.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So I would say
sleep deprived, one might say.
Oh yeah,
holy crap.
Absolutely horrendous. I do not recommend this to anyone who is over the age of like
No, you can
20.
stop with I don't recommend this to anyone.
I was young. I could definitely do it back then. There's so many things.
I don't know if you should have.
No.
Jesus Christ.
Well, I mean, that really comes down to how much you enjoy yourself when you're doing it. Because I had the time of my life. I look back on those days very fondly, to be honest with you.
Aw.
I don't think of it as one of those things where I wasted my life, because I really had fun doing it, you know? It's probably just I maybe should have controlled myself a little more on I think those 2 weeks where I played 20 hours a day, I actually don't think it's that bad. I think the problem is when you take this long-term obsession, or you make the obsession really long-term and then just never stop.
Mm-hmm.
If you've reached a goal after those 2 weeks, then it's a good time to kind of cut yourself off and take a more casual pace. But after those 2 weeks, I honestly was still playing 10 to 15 hours a day after that. So yeah, I didn't go to class. I was
gonna say there's a follow-up to this where
we
gotta make the time somewhere.
Oh yeah, I was a horrible student in undergrad.
You hear that, kids? Be a horrible student.
Yeah,
Play 15 hours a WoW.
Yeah, play 15 hours a WoW a day. You too could eventually go to Google or something. I don't know. But yeah, no, I played a lot of WoW, and I have been playing a lot of WoW ever since. A lot of my friends that I made, similar to Magic, I've made through WoW. And so, in fact, recently in April, I went to a wedding for some of my friends, 2 of my friends actually, that I met through WoW. And
Aww.
yeah, it was wonderful. I was
lovely.
very close to them for a very long time. Obviously, when you stop playing, it becomes harder to stay in touch. But I think they're wonderful people, and I had the time of my life.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So walk us through a day in the life of playing, as you are somebody that now has a day job, has something to do. What is the day in a life of a MMORPG fan who has a job, who needs his X amount of hours of sleep? How does it fit now with the way you choose to live your life?
Well, I don't play WoW anymore. So I haven't played WoW for 2 years, although I am playing Baldur's Gate 3 currently, which I'm sure many, many people are also doing.
Yep.
But
lots of people I know who used to play WoW as well.
Yeah, what a coincidence. If I feel like there's a certain cross interest between those. But anyway, just you finish work, do whatever you need to do, and then go home and play WoW. If you work from home, you can hit build on your code and then play WoW in between. Or
to anyone's bosses listening.
Yeah, I mean, if you work in hardware, instead of doing a partial build, you can do a full build, and be like, oh, I just had to do a full build, and that'll take half an hour. Boom, half an hour of playing. It's easy.
So what is a full build?
So when you're building when I need to upload code to a device, because I used to work in hardware, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to upload code to a device, you can either flash the entire hard drive of the device, where you just need to build literally the entire code base and put it on the device, or you can just build one component and replace that file on the device, right? And these two things are vastly different sizes and vastly different build times. So yeah, and also, I mean, there's a lot of different things involved with it too. That's a very simple thing. There's other complex, there's other components of it, but very layman's explanation for it.
Well, thank you very much, because I am a lame man. But so how is there an amount of time when we're gonna pretend you're a super responsible employee and you're on site working, and then you come home and play games? When you come home and play, is there an amount of time that is kind of necessary to satiate your fixation? Or is it if you came home and played an hour, would it be more annoying than helpful, or would it be still, would you still find it enjoyable, or does there need to be is there a certain amount of time that needs to be met for it's that was a good gaming session?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. I have noticed that if I only have an hour to do something, I don't want to play the game at all. Because if I get into actually playing this game, unless there's a specific activity, well, on WoW there are activities that you can do that take an hour, right? Or within that time frame. And for that case, just doing a Mythic Plus, running a daily, doing whatever. On WoW, that's actually fine. But I will that's one of those things. That's also one of those things that like you tend to stop doing after you've done your initial 2 weeks of 20 hours, because once you get to cruise control, you don't need to do those things anymore. So the things that you do on WoW are like PvP sessions or like raiding or stuff like that. And for those things, an hour just isn't enough, basically. Like especially PvP. If you're pugging,
PvP, for the record, is player versus player.
player
So
versus
you're
player, yeah.
fighting other poor souls who have decided to also
Exactly.
put their whole life towards this game.
Exactly. And by the way, WoW player versus player PvP on WoW is like very similar to like Magic Online, where like there's like
the worst parts of people just come out in full force.
Well, it's not even just that. It's like Magic Online has become this like weird. I mean, obviously it's a cesspool of like really horrible people sometimes, but like, but
Raise
the
his
other
hand
thing
in
is like
solidarity.
the only people that still play Magic Online are like the people who are insane at Magic. Like I've been in like limited prelim queues where like I play like a Pro Tour top 8 player every single round. It's like the biggest sickos in the world, And like that's what it is for like PvP on WoW now. Once you get higher up there, you're just playing against people who have been playing the game for like, I don't know, 15 plus years or whatever amount of time, And it's just the most disgusting thing ever. Like they're so much better than the person who's just jumping into the game that it's just completely demoralizing. But and I've been playing a long time. I haven't been PvPing consistently that entire time. I used to be very good at it in comparison to everybody else, but back then everybody was kind of trash at it compared to now. But yeah, like I'll just play now and be like, yeah, these people are just so vastly better than me. But regardless, these activities take like 2-3 hours. Raiding is like a minimum of 3-hour commitment for me. So if I don't have like an hour, if I only have an hour, I just don't want to do it. I'll just do something else. I'll like watch a show or like look up magic decks online or something. And it's kind of the same thing for Baldur's Gate now, where like you kind of really get into the game and you don't want to spend just like an hour doing it. You want to set aside a large amount of time. I don't know if this is the experience for everyone, and I could be alone in this, but yeah, I like blocking off like 3 or 4 hours for these things.
Totally. What would you say your dream involvement with MMORPGs would look like, or what would you hope it would amount to? Is it just this playing, finding 4-hour pockets, or, taking a whole entire day on a weekend with some friends and just really getting down to it, crushing a case of Mountain Dew and just throwing down the gauntlet metaphorically and literally? Or what is it that you would like to do in this space?
I think there's been like differing periods of my life in terms of what I wanted out of MMOs, right? Like initially, when I first started playing up until like Burning Crusade, the end of Burning Crusade, I wanted to be the best in Arena, right? And there was actually a period of time where there was this list of people with the highest combined ratings between 2v2, 3v3, and 5v5 in Arena, because back then they still had 2v2 and 5v5 Arena, and that was called the SK100 or something, if I recall correctly. And I actually got to like kind of, this was the top 100 players in the world, and I actually got on that list at some point.
Woo!
Yeah. But then but that quickly dissipated because it's one of those things where I also have like a lot of ladder anxiety. So once I get to a certain point, I don't really want to keep playing for fear of losing.
Yeah.
And that's definitely something that translates across a lot of different games. So I ended up not playing Arena as much towards the end. And these are things where, especially in the beginning of these competitions, like people get much better, like very, very quickly. And Arena back then was still new, and I was very good at the beginning, but like I quickly got left behind. And so that's, that kind of shift my priorities to like being really good at raiding. And I did that for a while, but I never really could get into it super hardcore, like raid like 20 hours a week. I think the best guild I've ever been in terms of raiding was like a US top 40-ish guild, which is pretty good still, like world top 200. And I've gotten like a couple of top 10 parses. I've gotten a couple of rank 1 parses that like I've explained what they were earlier. But that's been a part of my goal. That was my goal for a while. Another little bit of time I tried to do really well in Mythic Pluses when those came out. I got to like number in terms of like a third party rating, because back then Blizzard didn't have a rating for these things. Although I don't know if they still have one, if they have one now or anything. But in terms of third-party ratings, I was number 3 mage in the world, number 1 in North America. So yeah, so like I've actually gotten pretty high in these things, but again, these are one continuous theme is when I did really well is that when these things were just starting out, and once again my ladder anxiety kicks in. I don't play as much anymore. Also,
yeah, it's hard to barter with staying when if you win you move up the ladder board, and if you lose you fall off it completely, right?
Yeah,
it's such a scary thing because you're risking so much to gain something, but not nearly as much as what is like losing would feel like.
Oh yeah, and that's how it was for Arena, by the way. You lose like 50 points, not 50, but like a bunch of points for losing, and then you win like 1 or 2 for winning. So it is really annoying. It wasn't that case for Mythic Plus because you can't really lose in Mythic Plus, but you know, it was definitely you still get anxious about like whether or not you can succeed at doing this dungeon or not. And then after that, you know, I kind of fell off in terms of being super competitive for WoW. But then I realized that like one big part about WoW for me was the people, and you know, just playing for my friends, hanging out with them, the community. It's honestly like some of the greatest people I've ever met are through WoW. Like one of my friends, he came for an internship in UCSF, and we played a bunch of PPTQs together when they still had those. Actually, there's another interesting, funny story with Bradley for that one, which I can tell later if you want me to. But and you know, I went to their wedding, as I said earlier, and yeah, so like my goals with WoW have always shifted, and now I just try to, and now with like Baldur's Gate 3, which is not really an MMO, but like it does have like that immersive factor in it. I just really enjoy just kind of playing the game and taking some time off and, you know, cooling down and enjoying myself.
That's so awesome.
A much healthier engagement, as you but
still not 20 hours.
Still not that healthy because, you know, as I said, 130 hours since it's come out, so yeah, not that healthy, but yeah.
Putting in double work weeks. So, is there someone that you could collab with or play with or in some way interact with in any of the MMO RPG scenes that you've been a part of that you would like to?
Yeah, I mean, so I don't watch to provide a little bit of I don't really watch streams, but I do watch YouTube videos in my spare time, and there's this one streamer called Asmongold who plays a lot of WoW, and like I think he's like a very funny person because he's this person who like clearly has no idea how to like be alive. Like he cannot take care of himself at all. He's not a functioning human being. But he also is like very entertaining, and he actually has very good takes on a lot of things. He's like a very reasonable person, and I think he's somebody who and he does like tend to like similar things to me. So I think I would really like to, you know, at least pick his brain or something, because it's really fascinating to me how somebody can be like so level-headed about so many things and like not even know how to properly heat a microwave pizza.
How can you not know how to microwave a tombstone pizza?
Exactly. Or like not be able to like not eat fruits or something because they're like weird. I don't know. Like he has like a bunch of different quirks. But yeah, he's a very fascinating person, and I would love to talk to him, but he's also like
you hear that, Asmund? Richard Liu wants to play with you. Hit him up.
He's insanely famous, so he's never gonna.
Yeah, he's totally gonna listen to this. He's subscribed. He's a big fan. Before he messages you and you go off and play together into the sunset, what would you say is the biggest misconception about MMORPGs by the wider world?
That the people who play MMORPGs are just a bunch of basement dwelling no life nerds.
Oh no, they have knives. Lots of them have knives.
Yeah, plenty of lives in their MMO, but no.
Plenty of knives, no lives.
Yeah, exactly. Or infinite lives, because you know you can just respawn if you die, unless you're playing on a hardcore server. But which I think that's like generally been the perception of nerds in general that play RPGs and Magic or whatever. But I think that's also something that's slowly being dispelled as we move on. Move forward in time with things like Critical Role or just people like Post Malone playing Magic, just it's a
Although,
lot.
I mean, to be fair, Post Malone does look like the manifestation of what somebody would expect to come out of your basement.
Exactly.
So I don't know. I love Post. You're great. I love that you're buying cards for $2.6 million and that you're bringing fame to the game. But yeah, not.
Yeah, no, he definitely
He's the
doesn't.
best and worst representation.
Exactly. No, definitely does look the part for what people would stereotypically think. But he's a very cool guy, and I think it definitely has come into the mainstream a little more. But there's still a lot of people who look at these things with some degree of disdain,
Yeah.
and I think it's very unfortunate because it's just another thing that people enjoy doing, and I don't really. I find it very odd that people arbitrarily judge people for their interests, extremely harmless interests, because like, why is Magic or WoW or whatever or Dungeons and Dragons worse than being on the football team? In fact, if anything, I would argue that being on the football team is worse than all of these because
it is very hard to get a concussion while playing Magic the Gathering or an MMORPG.
It is difficult, though. Not.
I've never accomplished it. Lord knows I've tried when butting heads with fellow players.
Yeah, when being like when I'm sufficiently angry at World of Warcraft, a concussion is on the table, but
It's
never
at the
really.
far end of the table.
Yeah, never really manifested itself. It was just my tantrums in my younger days didn't quite get there, but. I don't know, smashing my head against the keyboard, I've done it enough times where it wouldn't be the biggest stretch.
Have you ever broken a keyboard or a mouse?
I have never done that. I've never gotten that angry.
Some rookie numbers.
Yeah. I don't, like, I think the most angry I get is like, I'll just hit the table and be like, fuck, or something like that, But
the old classic.
Exactly. But yeah, no, I don't think I've ever broken any hardware though. So fortunately, because this shit's expensive now.
It really is. So on the flip side of this, what would you say is your favorite non-obvious aspect of MMORPGs?
I think. Okay, so I was gonna say community, but I feel like if you're playing, it's literally in the name, right? Like. Obviously, if you're an outsider and you don't even know what it is, then maybe it's a surprise that it's community. But, even with like a very cursory understanding of what it is, that's an obvious answer. So I think the other thing that MMORPGs kind of teach you is how to be very analytical with what you're doing. Because like now there's like a bevy of different tools you can use to kind of look into the more granular details of how you play the game. There's literally a website where you can upload your parses and it will teach you like what mistakes you're making, and you can go through Warcraft logs and just look at so many different numbers and like how to deduce what these numbers mean and all that other shit. Like I think that actually helps with like
the fact that you're in programming is really starting to make sense.
Well, maybe, yeah.
You get to look at all the numbers. Yeah. It's amazing.
Well, yeah. I mean, that kind of, yeah. I think that there's definitely a lot of intersection between that kind of thinking and this level of analysis in MMOs, and I think like those lessons really help a person's ability to critically think. Because I have a friend I played Arena with. He would use like Warcraft logs or like damage meters or combat logs to analyze how he did in Arena, and he was like one of the best players in Europe, by the way. So like he was really good, and he would use these tools, and he was not even tangentially related to like programming or software engineering, and like him learning that skill through MMOs is like absolutely fantastic for him, because that's something that'll help him in like other facets of his life. So yeah, I think that's like a very nice thing. Besides the community.
Besides the community. How many would you say, as somebody who works in the craft, how many people in programming and like Silicon Valley have you worked with or been around where you either get vibes or you see and talk about like MMORPGs? What, like ballpark percentage?
Shockingly little, actually.
Oh, okay, wow.
Shockingly little. In fact, I don't think I've worked with anybody directly or even close to anybody who played WoW in my
What would
lifetime.
you say is the most preferred pastime of fellow coworkers?
Uh, Hiking is
Boo.
like, have you? There's like this amazing video online of like a person at a party with a bunch of Silicon Valley tech people, and it's like hiking and like hallucinogenics, and that's like
Nothing like
their
hiking on
personality.
mushrooms to make you forget you live in a cubicle.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, I think that's a more apt description than literally anything else. That was a hilarious video. I wish I could point you towards it, but that's been lost to annals of time. So yeah,
Well, enough with your wishes, and time to move on to something problematically preposterous. Richard Liu, what is your preposterous peeve?
the thing I absolutely hate the most, because I love arguing with people. It's one of my favorite pastimes besides wasting my life in MMOs. But and I like to reach a conclusion to my arguments. So if I spent like an hour arguing with you, and then you're clear, not you as in you, Isaac Sears, but if the person that I'm arguing with is clearly wrong, and we've established that, but like rather than like them
It's been
admitting,
established.
yeah, it's well established that they're wrong, and rather than them admitting it, they just kind of like brush it off and move on. Like that like actually drives, and by the way, and that's not the biggest problem. Like, and they just continue existing as if they were correct the entire time.
They just continue existing,
Yeah,
daring you to breathe air.
If you cut off that second part, then that does sound pretty bad. But if they continue living their lives as if they were right the entire time, even though they were clearly shown to be wrong, that pisses me. It drives me insane. Which a lot of people do that. So maybe I should just reevaluate how I engage with the world.
Same ballpark. Literally today, one of my coworkers is like, "Oh yeah, I wear one of those, a baklava." I was like, "Sorry, what?" And he goes, "Yeah. You when it's cold outside, you wear a baklava." I'm like, "Do you mean balaclava?" He goes, "Yeah." I was like, "Those aren't the same thing. They are spelled differently. They're from different cultures. They are from different countries. No." Like, one of these you eat, one of these would not taste good. You cannot. It's not apples and oranges, bud.
To be fair to him, you can in fact wear a baklava. I mean, depending on how you engage with the ontology of to wear, but you can put like a baklava on your head, and hair would be a little sticky from the honey. But
wear it as much as anybody does a ball cap these days.
Exactly.
Yeah, when did you first notice this being a problem for you? Like, how old was little Richard Liu when he was like, "No, I was right"?
Honestly, it's probably been like that for my entire life. Because I think the way I think just in general how society deals with arguments is kind of just brushing it under the table, because a conflict is something that most people aren't very good at dealing with. And by the way, I'm not good at dealing with conflict anyways. Either.
Well,
but
I mean, in this situation though, it doesn't even need to be conflict, because I mean the conflict's already happened.
Yeah.
What people are not willing to do, if I'm understanding you correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what people are not willing to do is just be like, "Oh, you're right." That's all they have to say.
Oh yeah.
All they do is have to bend the metaphorical knee, and we can all move on.
Bend the metaphor. Well, when you contextualize it like that if it was,
as somebody who does that frequently, it's not hard. You just have to accept that you're wrong and know that shit needs to move on, and give that person the W they deserve. If you're gonna engage in an argument in a true fashion. Yeah. And not like obviously if you're pushing the agenda and they're just kind of like whatever about it, then you're kind of the asshole. But if it is an argumentative discussion where both parties are, invested, and they've both decided to take the stance of "fuck you, you're wrong, I'm right," not necessarily that aggressively, but like they do that, and then they don't bend the metaphorical knee, no, fuck them. Like, that's bullshit.
Yeah, and you know what? One thing that I've like come to realize is like I'm pretty okay at admitting when I'm wrong, except like very personal arguments. Maybe not, but like, but for basically anything else, I'm very good at admitting I'm wrong. Like, I will often talk about XYZ Magic card in a spoiler being good, but like if it ends up being bad, I'm like, okay, well, I may have overestimated
Whoops.
this one. Yeah.
I was a doofus.
But yeah, like with the exception of personal things, I'm generally very good at that, and I just don't understand why people can't do that. Like it's just like so easy, you know?
I think it's people don't play enough things where they are wrong and or lose, and it's like hard to take L's.
Yeah.
When you're not like when you play Magic, you lose a lot of games. It sucks, but you lose a lot of games. When you play MMORPGs, unless you're playing on, hard as shit mode, your character's gonna die. You're going to make mistakes in raids, and your teammates are gonna let you know about it. And if you want to continue being teammates, clanmates, I don't remember the other classifications of groups. Those people, if you want to still hang with those people, you have to be willing to say, I was wrong and learn from that moment, or at least be like, oh, thank you for the input. There has to be some pacification of the ire of your teammates for when you fuck up.
Yeah.
And so we as nerds kind of get used to it, or we should get used to it. Some don't. Plenty of those people you can find streaming or playing Magic or playing MMORPG streaming. Check Tyler, the Creator 1 early in his career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you can see people that just don't, but by and large we do. And it's because of that, I think, that it makes it for you and I, the circumstances of like when the perpin is wrong and they're just kind of like, and they just like move on as if nothing happened. It's like, no, don't cheapen this. I won. You have to yield.
Exactly.
These are the rules.
You have to, where are my drops? I need my magical sword.
I would like a bag to loot, sir.
Exactly. But yeah, I think also the other component is, as I was alluding to earlier, is dealing with conflict in society is like kind of difficult. And one way a lot of people deal with it, and a lot of like we're taught to deal with it, is just ignoring it that it even happens.
It doesn't happen. It doesn't exist. The elephant's not in the room.
Exactly.
Do you have a story of when this peeve of yours shone the brightest? Perhaps was a biggest offender?
I argued with a lot of people online about how good Oko was going to be when it got spoiled. I feel like though that one is like something where people generally realize that card is pretty good, so the people who we're arguing with were a very vocal minority. Because I think even the worst Magic player can understand that Oko was broken. So yeah, but that's one example off the top of my head. I think it manifests itself a lot in Magic cards though.
Did you double back and look through all the texts and like message people, like be like, so I was right? No, you didn't go. You didn't get that pedantic about it.
It's not that I'm not that spiteful, because I am.
I just had a raid to do that day.
Yeah, I just have better things to do. If I did not have a better thing to do, I would 100% do that.
If I didn't have 20 hours of BlackRock to play.
Yeah, I need to kill Neltharion for the 17th time. Come the fuck on. I can't talk to this random person on Reddit. Also, I like how he says 17th as an over-exaggeration when those are that's like fucking rookie numbers. Like, I need to run this dungeon for like the 70th time in the last week.
What am I, a pleb? 17th?
Yeah.
Only 2 digits?
Exactly.
What am I, new?
What am my alts gonna do? Are they gonna beg in the street for gear? Like...
I dry my eyes. We're gonna head to our second ad break, but please don't go anywhere, because when we get back, Richard's gonna enter the lightning round. See you in a bit. Do you need 100 pounds of butter? Come on down to Company Street Company. What if I need 30 gallons of olive oil? Come on down to Company Street Company. But what if I just want one flatless bird roasted for a reasonable price? Come on down to Company Street Company. Okay, but... Just come on down to Company Street Company. We have everything for a better price, free snacks, and employees who don't want to kill themselves, or you, because we treat them like fucking human beings. Yeah, but... Yup. Just get your ass down to Company Street Company, where the only sketchy thing we've ever done is enable frozen orange juice hoarders. And we're back. Richard, are you ready to enter... lightning round? All right, buckle your seatbelts and keep your arms inside the ride at all times. Richard, is there a price for you to give up your passion forever?
Yes, there's always a price for everything. I'm a firm believer in that.
Make the food or do the dishes?
Make the food. Not even close.
Did you ever cheat on a test in school?
Who doesn't cheat? If you're not cheating, you're not trying hard enough. In tests, do not cheat in magic.
Would you rather have your inner monologue sound like Gilbert Gottfried or Fran Drescher?
I don't know what Fran Drescher sounds like, but I'll sound like Iago.
You're having the best day of your life. What happens next? Another amazing thing or something terrible?
I'm an optimist, so another amazing thing.
Is professional wrestling cool or lame?
Oh, it's professional wrestling is the American anime. It's amazing. It's awesome.
Nick Cage, best or worst ever?
This question is absurd. He's the greatest ever. Like, why does this one exist?
Are soups smoothies?
Can be.
Do you create your own thoughts or do you just listen to them?
Probably, I don't know. I need to listen to what my thoughts are thinking or saying right now.
Album, shuffle, or playlist?
Shuffle. What kind of monster has an order for the songs that they play? Actually, no, that's not true. If it's an album, that's fine.
Is there such a thing as a perfect piece of art?
No. If it's perfect, then it's not perfect.
Have you ever had a crush on a cartoon character?
Yes, definitely.
Are you out of touch or is it the children who are wrong?
The children are definitely wrong.
What is more important, freedom or structure?
Freedom.
Communicate only in emojis or never text again?
I would rather die than communicate in emojis.
Would you rather have tentacle arms or kangaroo legs?
Tentacle arms, but I will not say for what reason.
Would you rather be a human in a world of Muppets or a Muppet in a world of humans?
Can I break out in song? Because if so, Muppet in a world of humans.
Would you rather meet an extraterrestrial or a ghost?
Ghost. Because one of those two definitely exists. And it's not the ghost.
Schrodinger's cat, alive, dead, or both?
Both.
Are hot dogs tacos?
No. What?
No internet ever again, or the internet streams directly into your brain at all times.
Wait, this is like just as absurd as the previous one. Why would you ever not have internet in your brain? That'd be awesome.
Would you go to a music festival on the moon?
Yeah, that'd be cool. Oh, wait, is it dangerous to get there? Because I don't know. I don't want to die going to the moon.
I don't know. I haven't been to the moon. Is In-N-Out overrated?
Yes. But cheap. Cheap as fuck, though. So it's good for
yeah.
its price.
Price point, positive. Skydiving or deep sea diving?
Skydiving.
Would you rather be stranded in the desert or at sea?
Oh, God. I guess stranded in a desert is, like, less ironic. Because, stranded in the sea is like water everywhere and you can't drink, right?
Mm. Could you eat 37 of your favorite food for $5,000 in a 1 hour time limit?
37? Probably not. Yeah, I would
Well,
die.
either way, you've survived the lightning round.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
I would not survive eating 37 burgers in an hour.
That is a lot. Even if it... Wait, what if it was... White Castle?
Well, I would definitely not survive that because White Castle is disgusting. Like, that is the most disgusting burger I've ever had in my entire life.
I definitely don't know if it's called a burger. I feel like it's just a shitty small sandwich.
Yeah, it's its own thing. Like that Harold and Kumar, which is a fantastic movie, by the way.
Banger.
Yeah, but that like kind of glorified White Castle, so I had to try it, and I tried it in Vegas for the first time, which I was like, this kind of sucks, but maybe it's because it's Vegas. And then
here's the thing: 100% you went to the White Castle in Old Town.
Oh no, I went on the Strip. The one I can't remember where, like near the Venetian. Oh, it's near the Venetian. But I tried it again in Indianapolis at Gen Con, and it was even worse. So
Well, yeah, you're in Indianapolis. It had to be worse.
That's
It doesn't
true.
get better when you go to Indiana.
yeah, it's true.
That's shade. Feel free to at me. All right. Well, as you have survived said lightning round, I grant the lightning round question of your own to be echoed until we get bored of it. What you got?
Dubbed or subbed?
Subbed. I'm a little subby boy.
Okay. I you know what? I was subbed for a long time in my life, but I actually prefer dubbed now because I can do something else while I watch the anime.
I feel like that's the adult decision, but I'm too much of like a purist when it comes to like paying attention to art. Also,
Yeah.
I can't multitask for shit. So even if it isn't like shows in English, I still like when I'm playing a game, watching a show in English, the amount of times that I have to pause the show to concentrate on the game to then unpause the show, it's like almost time negative.
Except for Cowboy Bebop, though, right?
I'm sure it's good. When it comes to watching any show, anime, American, wherever it's from, the first language I hear it in, like 99% of the time, is the language I hear it in forever. I can't
I
do
see.
I'm an originalist, if that's even a word.
Yeah.
So first come, first serve. For instance, every Hayao Miyazaki movie. Hayao Miyazaki is also a cheat because the dubbed are busted because like they have like crazy money.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I think for all of them, I prefer the Japanese version, except for Totoro, My Neighbor Totoro,
interesting.
because my parents had a video cassette of it growing up, and it was in English because fucking 90s. And so like that one, I just got used to the way the voices sound. So now when I watch it and it's subtitles, I freak the fuck out. I'm like, it ain't right, and I just like have to like turn it off.
Interesting. I've actually never watched English Totoro before,
So here's the weird thing.
Yeah.
I think this is only true for My Neighbor Totoro.
Mhm.
There are 2 English dubs.
Whoa.
One of them is OG, and the second one was something they did later with like the Fanning sisters, and that one sucks booty. I would
Really?
highly recommend going with the one that like you don't know the name of the American actors. That one's actually great.
Yeah.
Hot take.
Well, I mean, I will just take your word for it because I will never watch either of them. So
That's fair. Yeah, but going back, Bebop was one that I watched subtitled, and now I hear and see what people are talking about compared for Cowboy Bebop versus other animes when it comes to like the voice acting, like kind of pantheon. But for me, it always still sounds kind of wrong.
yeah.
It's not Naruto levels are wrong. That show is just hot duty. Do not, anybody out there, do not watch Naruto in dub. It's so bad. So bad.
I have actually.
Like,
I don't actually watch Naruto, but I have actually seen the dubbed version of it, and it is pretty bad. So
it's hilarious.
you're definitely correct.
All right, as we come to a close here, because we could talk about sub versus dub forever. Is there anything you want to plug, shout outs you'd like to give, places people can find you or your content?
I mean, I'm not really a content person. Just if you want to follow me on Instagram, feel free to. You don't have to though, because I don't really care one way or another. You'll see my adventures at going to emo nights or whatever.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah. If by the way, if anybody, I'm not gonna plug myself, but I'm gonna plug emo music from the 2000s.
Yeah.
People should listen to more My Chemical Romance, Fall Out Boy, Paramore, stuff like that. It's a little mall emo / scene, but not original first generation of emo, but those are my favorites. So definitely give those a shot. But otherwise, my Instagram is RLIU718, and my Twitter is bad_at_MTG, which
Awesome. Well, thank you, Richard, for being my guest today, and a special thanks are due to my editor, Richard Ashford, and my composer, Joshua Gibbons. And thank you, yes, you, listening at home, or you found time to appreciate this. Time is the most precious commodity we have, and I really appreciate you spending years with us. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, like, or just share with a friend. Every little bit helps. Or if you already have and are out of episodes to listen to, don't worry. We put out a new episode every Monday at midnight on Soundcloud, YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes at Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves podcast. And a very special thanks are due to our patrons, Sabella Yellow. If you'd like to join such illustrious ranks and have your name read aloud, just head on over to patreon.com/Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves podcast. And do remember, folks, if days are numbered and songs are sung, at the end of the day, I think we've all won. So please stick around, because great things have only just begun.